Zoom Lion disinfects Central Mosque in response to Chief Imam's appeal. Students Loan Trust Fund to disburse 32 million Ghana cedis by the end of the 2019-2020 academic year. That's according to Vincent Asifwa. 16 women nabbed over fake currency printing distribution in Kumasi. And on the back page, 7 more bodies retrieved from the Volta Lake accident. That's the boat's disaster which happened last Thursday. And Mineral Commission to provide free fertilizer for farmers in oil palm plantations.
1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 10.
Hear ye the word of the Lord.
Exactly. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil.
And the headline.
Let's get into it now. Harmful chemicals found in soaps in Ghana. FDA, GSA play blame game. That's the Chronicle. And speed up hearing of political cases in court. Professor Asare and EIP lauded for training 19,000 youth with business starters. Back page. Anthony Joshua is running away from me. That's Tyson Fury. And Lewandowski equals record as Bayern hit 5. Mauro Icardi secures permanent switch to PSG.
On the back page of the Daily Guide is Run Kotoko like business. Kufuor tells the new board that we absolutely enjoyed that interview that Nathaniel Atto had with him over the weekend. And on the front page, Men's Gold Payboy Saga. Nam1 Cash Gang arrested. Obinim for court today. New voters register. NDC position absurd. That's according to the EC. Ignore warmongers. Freddie Blay. That's it for the Daily Guide.
And the Economy Times says government receives 5.5 billion first installment of COVID-19 relief bond. GCNet to demand over $100 million for wrongful termination of contract. And CD losing value against foreign currencies in spite of IMF $1 billion injection.
Okay, the Daily Statesman, Professor Bochwe snubs Mahama running mate offer. As we still wait for that announcement. Don't allow power to corrupt you with arrogance. Ewuku to politicians. Places of worship reopen on Friday. Winston, will you be going to church on Sunday?
Today's Monday.
You don't answer questions on this.
I don't answer questions. So the finder says completion date of infectious disease facility, shifted to 30th June. And ICOMS takes over Tema Port today. So talking about ICOMS, that's the Integrated Customs Management Systems, and they're taking over today at the Tema Port 1st June. We'll tell you more about that later on in the course of the week. But UK aid-backed zipline drones facilitate Ghana's COVID-19 fight.
All right, my very last paper is the Gold Street Business. Secondary fixed income market trading defies COVID-19. Records highest trading volumes in 3 years. Lobby to implement ECOWAS veterinary pharmaceutical protocol intensifies. New export market for Ghana's cassava starch industry identified. And that's it for the Gold Street Business.
And the Daily Graphic says COVID-19 pandemic restrictions eased, schools reopen for final year students, abridged religious activities begin, borders remain closed, limited political activities. And also on the front page, EC's decision to compile new voters register laudable. That's according to Joy 2012, Joy 2016, Jacob Osayeboa. And Volta Lake boat disaster, 6 more bodies retrieved. Zoom Lion begins disinfection of mosque. Back page, alternative livelihood project makes positive impact. And in Yinim Kwabing Road, upgrade nears completion. But the new crusading guide says, drama at Pantang. King of land gas busted. His people promised to bribe SWAT team for his release as they go terrorizing citizens. And please terrorize youth and land developers at Doblo. And finally, John Kuma declared most outstanding integrity CEO and honored for deepening culture of entrepreneurship in Ghana.
All right, and just before we go into the online review, quick updates: 8,070 COVID-19 cases here in Ghana, 2,947 recoveries, 36 deaths, and of course the Greater Accra region is leading in terms of numbers with 5,616, and also Brazil now has the 4th highest in COVID-19 deaths, recording 28,834. They've just overtaken France, and only the US, UK, and Italy have recorded more deaths.
Does their president still think it's
yes, he's still playing it down. Has criticized state lockdowns for harming Brazil's economy and jobs, and apparently, the health ministry is in and they're overwhelmed. Past 24 hours, they had 956 deaths. But I guess he's remaining hopeful or in denial.
All right. Well, really quickly, we need to get into the conversation about our own situation here in Ghana. How are the schools going to reopen? How are the churches going to reopen? We need to start talking about it. But first, the online review brought to you by Zenith Bank, in your best interest, and Goyle Good Energy. Now, to all the valued customers of Goyle, they've been thinking about you, so they've set it up so you can stay safe in their forecourts. Please cover your mouth with tissue when you cough. Dispose of that tissue immediately. Wash your hands with soap and running water, which has been provided at all service stations, especially when you handle money. Also, remember to use the alcohol-based hand sanitizers if you're not in a position to wash your hands. Maintain a minimum distance of 1.5 meters between you and other customers, and of course between you and attendants. Let's all observe these simple protocols together to defeat COVID-19. And if you exhibit any symptoms at all, don't go straight to the hospital. Just call the hotlines 055 2222 004 or 055 2222 005 and ask for help. Okay, the online review is also brought to you by Zenith Bank, in your best interest, and they want to remind you to stay safe and stay connected to the things you love. So get 10% off Jumia with your Zenith Bank MasterCard. Yeah, pay less when you order your favorite meals from Jumia Food or buy items on Jumia Pay with your Zenith MasterCard. If you want to hear more good news, then you can get a free MasterCard instantly at any Zenith Bank branch across the nation. Simply visit them today. Zenith Bank, in your best interest. Here's what's on myjoyonline.com. Churches and mosques to reopen from June 5, but with only 100 congregants at a time. Also, 1 hour per service. CityNewsRoom.com has one massive banner I have to get rid of before I see the headline, which is fuel prices to go up today.
Oh gosh.
Some component B has gone up, so the whole thing is going up. CNN International has U.S. streets seethe for a 6th night. Told you the story has displaced COVID-19 worldwide. And on BBC Africa, Zimbabwe summons U.S. envoy over Trump's advisor remarks. And this is also related to the riots. Okay, now let's get into Ghana's situation, because the president has announced some changes. Schools will be reopening, but only for final year students of secondary and tertiary institutions. How will this work practically? We're happy to have the Deputy Minister for Education and Member of Parliament for Bosumtwe, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, on the phone line. Good morning, sir. Thank you for your time. Hello, Dr. Educhum? Right, we'll be bringing you Dr. Yao Educhum in just a minute. But first of all, let's hear what the president said last night when he announced the restrictions being eased.
From Monday, 15th June, the decision has been taken after engagement with the teacher unions, whose cooperation I salute, to reopen schools and universities to allow for final year junior high, senior high, and university students to resume classes ahead of the conduct of their respective exit examinations. Indeed, final year university students are to report to their universities on 15th June. Final year senior high school SHS3 students, together with SHS2 Go Track students, on 22nd June. And final year junior high school JHS3 students on 29th June. JHS3 classes will comprise a maximum of 30 students. SHS classes a maximum of 25 students. And university lectures will take place with half the class sizes. All final year students of educational and training institutions, which are being managed by ministries other than the Education Ministry, are to return to school on 15th June to complete their exit examinations. Again, Prior to the opening of schools and universities, the Ministry of Education and the heads of public and private educational institutions will fumigate and disinfect their institutions. Each student, teacher, and non-teaching staff will be provided with reusable face masks by the Ministry of Education. With the avoidance of doubt, all other educational facilities, private and public, for non-final year students will remain closed. The Minister for Education in the coming days will outline in detail the specific guidelines for the safe reopening of our schools and universities.
And that was the president last night when he announced some of the restrictions that are to be eased. We have Dr. Yao Duchum on the phone now. He is the Deputy Minister for Education and MP for Bosumtwi. Dr. Duchum, how nice to speak to you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So perhaps you can help us understand how the implementation of this is going to go. The president has said quite clearly it's only final years in secondary and tertiary institutions who are coming to prepare for their exams, and class sizes cannot exceed 25 students. Now, it occurs to me that in Ghana there are almost no public schools that have class sizes that small. So how is the implementation going to be? How will we end up having these 25 per class?
Good morning to your listening audience. The bottom line is that the president has set what I call broad strokes of policy goals for the Minister for Education to really come out with implementation steps and the implementation guide. So at this point, the most important thing is to take, if you are the Minister for Education, you are taking the President goals seriously, and then you will have to come up with the steps to get to the goal, which is produce 25 instead of 50. And of course, with only gold and final year students there, you have so much space that you can easily implement that. So all those details are going to come from the Minister for Education.
Right. I kind of assumed that these details would have been decided on and the president would have been briefed on them, based on which he would have made his decision.
No, that is not policy making. When you have such a national emergency, the president has to be briefed, but he comes up with the broad strokes. The president does not saddle himself with the minute details informing the country about that. It is rather the Minister for Education that comes up with the policy together with stakeholders. So at this point, the president has spoken. He's giving the broad indications of what he wants to see to make sure students have quality instruction in a safe environment. That is his goal. And then it is the Ministry of Education's Minister for Education responsibility to come up with the details and inform the public accordingly. So that space, as we speak, is left to the Minister for Education, and you give him time in the coming days and weeks to inform you, the media, inform the good people of Ghana how he intends to implement the government broad policy goals.
Right. So when you say that's not policy, you mean before the president made the decision, he did not satisfy himself that the decision can be implemented. He simply made the decision and has left it now to the minister to implement.
That is not how you do policy. As a president, you give the broad strokes after you convince yourself that whatever you want the ministry to do is doable. And then you don't come public with the details. The details is not in your bosom, but you are convinced that the thing can be done. And then you leave that to the minister and the sector ministers in all the various areas where we are in transitioning to a normal life has been tasked with the responsibility to come out with the details and answer questions from people like yourself to ensure that everything is on the right track.
Okay then. So I'm thinking about the tertiary students, the final years. What happens to foreign students, those who had to leave the country when this crisis started? How do they come back and participate in this final year preparation and exam writing?
Now, you know, as we all know, we know the situation. one of the things I commend the universities for is how they were able to roll out online learning and have done a fantastic job so far in spite of the challenges. When it comes to the space of online learning, I always say we were crawling before COVID-19, and COVID-19 got us walking and running. In some cases, some universities were doing so well. So I'm sure that the universities being that creative and having used online learning previously in the last few days, weeks, I'm sure will come up with something. Our professors are very creative, and they will come up with something to meet the needs of the foreign students.
Right. I'm just conscious of the fact they pay even more fees than local students. So if online learning is the option, why not do that for everyone and keep them safe?
I think the president has been fully briefed. He knows the situation. I mean, if you look around the world, every country has a unique situation, and every country is using a transitioning approach, which is don't allow all students to go to school, focus on sometimes they look at a place of less vulnerability, of a place of the greatest need, an urgent need. So once you decide that you focus on the group that has the urgent need, then what you do is to make sure that the environment is safe. It's a way of developing our own self-efficacy to, as you say, to overcome the virus and deal with the virus and confront the virus and still get a quality education for the youth. So yes, the government, the president has been briefed very well and has looked at best international practices around the world in terms of transitioning from COVID-19 to some kind of normalcy. And this is the meticulous steps that he's taken, and I really applaud him for it. Based on what other countries are doing around the world, we are on the right track.
He indicated that there might be some sort of test run. When will that happen?
Test to run? I thought you were talking about this.
No, I mean, the president indicated that there might be a sort of test run or rehearsal, to make sure that these institutions are geared up to implement the easing of restrictions. Yeah,
I think all those institutions are going to look at the time frame that has been given to them and do that. So that's why I'm saying that he gave a broad strokes of what you do when you are doing policy. And now he's saying do this number. And it's left to you to make sure it works. So that test run can be done. It's like a mock. It's like a practice. You make sure you are doing the right thing. You're spacing, whatever needs to be done, you are testing to see how that works and how you can do the actual on the day that schools are coming back. So that's what he means by the test run in terms of like a practice.
Okay. Will that not be supervised by the ministry? Do you not know when they will be happening in the various institutions?
No, I don't have that. That is in the bosom of the Minister for Education. I'm sure he will come out publicly in the next few days in terms of how all that is going to be done.
Dr. Yawoduchum, I wish we had a bit more time. We'll have to make this the first of many conversations on this as we learn more about how these will be implemented. For now, though, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
And that's the Deputy Education Minister. There's more on this and other things on the Super Morning Show.